Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation. Today we're going to be talking about the number and severity of moral infractions and how they alter moral judgments. So this presentation is by Alexander Yu, who we'll be hearing from very shortly, as well as myself, Joseph Schmidt. So just to give a little quick introduction right now, morality is often quite confusing to fully understand, and especially since a lot of the concepts are quite complicated, where finding the why for certain things is generally quite difficult in a lot of circumstances. Our research that we're going to be doing will be conducting a study to see how moral judgments are altered by prior actions, and not just in judging others who have committed these moral infractions, but how these moral infractions in ourselves alter how we judge situations. Now, looking at some past research which looks at some similar topics to what we want to study, we see that Walker et al. In 2021 found that immoral actions become predictable and judgment varies based on the morality of their reasoning. Essentially what they're saying is that they found that those who act violent for a typically moral reason are generally judged as deserving less punishment, whereas those who are acting violent for immoral reasons generally are seen as deserving more punishment, since this is something that works vice versa. Now, additionally, Walker et al. Found that perceptions of predictability play an important role in judgment of moral character, where they essentially find that unpredictable actors were judged as less moral, even when performing fewer immoral acts. So essentially, if you were predicted and thought of as doing more immoral acts, you were seen as less deserving of punishment. Additionally, Waldman and Dietrich in 2007, across two of their studies, found that framing of a situation is extremely important. Essentially, what this means is that generally agent intervention techniques were judged as much more morally correct than patient intervention techniques. What they understand is that patient intervention techniques are generally seen as a little bit more personal, and it becomes therefore harder to make a personal decision that is going to be more immoral. Furthermore, Valdesolo and Desteno from 2006 researched the emotional aspect of moral decisions and judgment, and overall they found that positive stimuli raises positive affect and subsequently increases utilitarian thinking. They found that overall the ability and the want to think more for the greater good for many people shows through and increases with this positive affect. Now, why is this important? First of all, our study is aiming to look at ways in which crime and severity of crime alters moral judgment. Additionally, these studies will all research different variations of a dilemma that is closely related to our research, which is the classic footbridge problem. And for those of you who may not know what this is, very briefly, there's a runaway train who has no brakes as they have severely failed. They have the ability to stop the train, but to do so you must actively put somebody in harm's way, and they will likely die. If you do nothing, the train will keep going and kill 5 people who are tied to the tracks. What do you do? It's a hard question, and one that will always spark debate, and one that will always be used in morality research. The last thing that we're going to talk about here is the fact that what is demonstrated in these studies leans heavily into the form of morality that we plan to study, which is judgment based on violent versus non-violent infractions, and the morality of the intentions behind these actions. Now, what do we want to know overall? Our goal is to find out the extent to which different factors may affect perceived morality. We want to understand how much does the severity of a crime change the ability to judge the severe moral offender. Will they be judged much more harshly than the moderate offender? And will they act accordingly, i.e. prioritize the lesser offenders and judge them lighter? And also, will severe or frequent offenders have lives that are seen as less valuable due to their moral offenses? Now, these are 3 things that we're going to be looking for and we're trying to find out with our research, and it's going to be interesting to see the results of what happens. Before we move into the study itself, we do have 2 hypotheses that we have made. Firstly, the individuals who have more severely broken moral rules will be seen as deserving of more harsh judgment and therefore more harsh punishment. Hypothesis number 2 is that perceived harm done to non-offenders will increase as the severity of crime increases.
Our study will recruit 150 participants from MTurk, all aged 20 to 65 years old from the US, who have not been convicted of a crime they haven't received a pardon for. We want our participants to be from the US as it has the highest rate of incarcerations in the world. The participants will be given 3 different vignettes in random order of different versions of the footbridge problem, featuring 3 prisoners and a prison guard. In every version, the prison guard is the one who will get pushed off the bridge to stop the train. The basic structure of the vignette is that there is a train about to hit an automated bus carrying 3 prisoners. The train will be stopped after any collision, but is going fast enough that any collision will likely be fatal or cause permanent injury. An agent will push a guard from a guard tower to collide with the train to stop it. The participant will be judging the agent on their moral perception, as well as the harm the agent caused. Where each vignette differs is the severity of the crime. The first vignette will have prisoners that are first-time non-violent drug offenders. The prisoners in the second vignette will be convicted of unintentional manslaughter, and the third vignette will have prisoners who have committed multiple acts of first-degree murder. Our independent variable in the study are the severity of the crime, as well as the frequency of the crime, whereas our independent variable is a moral perception of the harm done. Participants will judge the agent's moral perception by rating goodness, morality, and empathy on a 7-point scale. At both ends of the scale will have different labels: good and bad, immoral and immoral, merciless and empathetic. The participants will also judge the perceived harm on a 7-point scale that ranges from cause no harm to cause a great deal of harm. We expect that the crimes get more severe. Moral perception of the agent will also be positively affected. For the more severe crimes, the agent will be seen as more empathetic and moral by pushing the guard down, but will also be seen as less good. We also expect to see that the agent will be seen as doing more harm by sacrificing the guard to save prisoners as the crimes get more severe. Our study does have its limitations. With all the participants coming from the US, it does lack multicultural and multinational representation. And the views of the US do not necessarily reflect the views of the Western world as a whole. Our study only explores one moment in time after knowing the prisoner has been convicted. Future studies can look at how individuals respond to before the prisoners are convicted, and as well as after the prisoners have already served their sentence. And here are our references. Thank you.